If everything that I do. Hey, I didn't hear you guys come in here. I'm gonna say this again. Knock before you enter. But anyway, you know who it is. It's your boy, Big Tank Hank, coming at you with another live stream. And Big Tank Hank's wild about herbs. Yes, you heard it here. I'm wild about herbs, people. And I got somebody that you're going to be very, very interested in and interested in what he does. We got Chris Mcvicar's on. I'm going to bring him up. He's going to, tell you a little bit about himself. And then we're going to dive in to what it is he does at present. You know, what does he see in the future? We might dabble on a little youth sort. You know, we're going to get to know this fella, man, and what he does here in this hobby. Wow, what's going on, sir?
What's up, man?
Oh, man, I'm chilling. I'm chilling.
All right,
Chilling.
good, good.
Thank you for coming through and
Thanks
blessing
for
us.
having me, man.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, man. I am learning myself, and being that I'm introducing this whole new genre to my fish fans. I want as many knowledgeable people as I can get, man. And just me going through your social media and seeing what you do, it's obvious you got to know a little bit something about what it is that you're doing. And I
A
had to
little bit.
bring you up here, man. I had to bring you up here. Introduce yourself, and let the people know a little bit about you.
So my name's Chris Mcvicar. My company's New Shed Serpents. I go by Chris Mcvicar on most of my social media stuff, but I've been keeping and breeding snakes for I guess about 19 years. I started off like most of us, little kid running around herping. Um, my young childhood, I was in Vegas. My dad was stationed out there, and I was always in the desert trying to catch little lizards and stuff. And we had a pet shop around the corner from us that it really kind of got me started in the hobby. It got me really interested in this stuff. They, my parents never would let me keep snakes, but I started out with some firebelly toads and carina knolls, stuff like that. But that pet shop, it really kind of kind of got me going. I'd sit there and I'd spend hours in that just asking all kind of dumb questions to the people, and I'm sure they got super irritated with me, but I was a passionate little kid, and after that we moved back to Arkansas. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a little bit, and man, my whole childhood I was always out in the woods trying to catch something, lizards, turtles, frogs, whatever. And then when I was 18, I joined the military, and me and my wife got stationed here in Oklahoma. My wife actually bought me my first snake for my birthday when we first moved here. So she's really the one that kind of jumped me into what I've been doing for the past 19 years. So got that one ball python, and it was a slippery slope from there. I got
Ah,
another one, and man, it just kind of blew up. So I've had all kind of stuff. I've had ball pythons, boas, corns, berms, retics, diamond pythons, jungles, turtles, tortoises, crocs, caiman. I've had a little bit of everything. So it's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. And I really like doing stuff like this, trying to show people my journey, maybe a little bit what not to do, good stuff, bad stuff. Um, just kind of get people interested in the stuff that I really love and enjoy.
most definitely, man. And I'm just speaking for myself, being somebody that that's eager to learn as much as possible. I can be appreciative of somebody who has a mindset off top for that. Unselfishly, man. And we need a whole lot more of that out here because there's a lot of people that let you just crash out. You know,
There's a lot of big breeders that don't remember kind of where they came from and won't take the time to talk to somebody that's not buying something from them. So anybody can hit me up, and as long as I'm awake and not real busy, I'll respond pretty quick. And any kind of questions, if I don't know it, I've been around long enough. I know a lot of people in the industry and can kind of point you in the right direction. So I kind of feel like I wish more of us were like that. Not saying there's not a good amount of people that don't do that. But I wish we were more of a community like it was when I kind of first got into it.
I think all of the mm, if we speaking of live animal hobbyists, I seem to have went down that road a little bit because yeah, over here on the fish side, it's kind of like that. You got the
Oh yeah,
it's like how dare you ask me anything?
oh yeah. I did the
You know.
monster fish stuff for I don't know, probably 5 or 10 years, and
Okay, okay.
it's the same thing, man. People don't want to share their little secrets and stuff like that, and I just don't understand it. Like they're the new generation of the hobby, or just somebody that's interested in it. You got to teach them. They got to learn, or they're going to make the same dumb mistakes that you did. I've had so many different, especially with the fish, losing pumps or something go wrong and have an entire fish loss, and it's horrible. I've
Yep.
been I've been pretty lucky with the snakes, and knock on wood, I haven't had a thermostat malfunction or anything like that, and lose a rack of snakes or a stack of cages. But it's happened to a lot of people I know, and it's devastating. So sharing that knowledge is definitely where it's at.
It could shut you all the way down mentally. I mean,
Hmm.
like I'm done, man. I had I had a particular fish that it's a wild betta fish called the Chinoides. Uh, it reminds you of the snakehead, the snakehead
Oh
china
yeah.
fish, but the ergo Chinoides name meaning snakehead betta. Now, it's like holy grail fish for me at one point. I got some, man, I got a pair. They breed, man. I got two 20-gallon longs of fry. Mind you, I got other fish, living around them in the tanks
Hmm.
with them. Man, I woke up one day and every Chinoides in both tanks were dead.
Mm.
But the other fish was still alive.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That would just happen.
and when I say I got no answer, that was 2 years ago. No, good year ago. Um, I still don't know to this day. And let's just say I haven't bought any more. They're just not
Yep.
even pretty. They're not even pretty to me anymore like they used to be. It's just like, no, no, I'm scared. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we have to once we get to a certain place, we have to you want to keep pushing the hobby forward.
Right.
Um when you can get to where you have some semblance of success, you call yourself successful, man. You want to push it forward. You want to keep it going. There people will preach, hey, man, the hobby is so wonderful. It's been so wonderful to me. And they go on the whole tangent, but they're part of the reason people are leaving, the hobby, but them not realizing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you say you love it. Come on, man. Push it forward. Now, off the soapboxes, off the soapboxes. Right now, what do you have under your care?
So right now, my main focus is the Dwarf and Super Dwarf crosses and the Reticles. I've got a decent little collection of boa constrictors, uh, pretty good size, more or less crocodile, and then these are all just pets, mine and my wife's. They're just kind of random, no real breeding plans. But yeah, I'm really kind of focusing on the Super Dwarf and Dwarf crosses. I like the colors and then the sizes. As I'm getting older, I had a back injury last year, so I can't mess with the big snakes like I used to. So making them a lot smaller is definitely beneficial for me. And
Right.
it seems like a lot of other people that started out with boas or something like that are gravitating towards the super dwarf and dwarf crosses because of how small they are, and I really like that, and that's kind of where I'm trying to to keep focusing on.
Gotcha. Now, when you say dwarf, we already know if you got this boa that's 20 feet or something, What does dwarf really mean in that?
So with retics, it's a whole nother language. So dwarf and super dwarf are they're pretty much just a marketing term, and it kind of helps differentiate the localities. So the super dwarf stuff is the smallest of the localities, and they're not going to get much bigger than about 10 foot. Maybe kind of like that big around, a little bit bigger if you're really kind of pumping them up. And then you got your dwarf, which is kind of the intermediate in between mainland and super dwarf. So anywhere between 10 foot and 16 foot, which is still a massive animal. But that's kind of how we, uh, label them so that we know what we're talking about. And we do, if you've ever looked into the super dwarf and dwarf crosses, we do a lot about percentages, and everybody's very particular about the percentages. But all that is to keep the lineage of it, documented. It doesn't really mean that snake, like if you got a 50% super dwarf, which is 50% super dwarf, 50% mainland, that snake could be 14 foot as an adult, or it could be 10 foot. It depends on the lineage. And just because
Okay.
you add another 25% super dwarf to that doesn't mean it's going to be, 8 foot. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, some of this stuff is going to stay like, 5, 6 foot. That ain't the case, man. I've been keeping super dwarfs for 14 years, and I haven't seen an adult like and when I say adult, I'm talking like 8 years to 10 years old. So I haven't seen an adult under 8 to 10 foot, unless you're talking males. Males are a little bit smaller, but there's a lot of confusion right now with the super dwarf and dwarf stuff. So I try to whenever I post stuff on the sizes and whatnot, I try to hold my snakes so people can really get like a good feel on the size of the animal, because you can say a snake's 12 foot and they really don't see like the girth and how big the snake really is.
Yeah.
I get into some arguments on some boa groups that are like, oh yeah, my snake's 10, 12 foot. And then I'll post a picture of a retic that I've measured that is 10 to 12 foot. And I'm like, that boa ain't that big, man. Like, it's probably about 6 foot. But people
Yeah.
exaggerate on the sizes a lot. And with super dwarfs and dwarfs, it gets real confusing unless been doing it for a minute.
Yeah. That's why I had to ask, because I've seen some, with the tag, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, what does dwarf mean? I have dwarf
Yeah.
in my head. Yeah, I have dwarf in my head, and I'm like, no, that's not a
Well, yeah, I
dwarf
mean,
right there. You know what?
you got dwarf boas that they're going to max out like that big around, like 3, 4 foot. But you got to remember, like with the retics, you're talking like a 20 foot adult mainland. So when
Yeah,
we
just
say
off
dwarf
top.
and super dwarf, it's it's based off of that.
Gotcha,
It's based
gotcha,
off of that 18 to 20 foot.
gotcha. Yeah, because since I'm thinking about bigger snake, uh, and I know enclosure wise, you got to be ahead of the game on stuff like that. Yeah, I really need to know, because
Oh yeah,
I'll be like,
the
hey,
boas is a good start. They're going to get a decent size. So you can work with them. You can play with them. They're fun. They still move around a little bit more than like a ball python, but they're not going to get giant. They're not going to. You can pretty much keep a boa in a 4 foot cage as long as it's not a BCC or something like that. But and there's dwarf boas, the Keycockers and the Solomon Islands and Hog Islands and stuff like that. They're a little bit smaller, so that kind of stuff is a little bit easier to work with, especially getting
gotcha,
into it.
gotcha. Now let me rewind, because we done jumped out there ahead of the game. how how did you get started in the I don't this is a dirty word. Uh ah commercial,
Oh man, you can
no,
say it.
yes, but it's not. It is, but it's not. I mean,
So
you
to me,
ah
there's a fine line. There's a
yeah, yeah.
fine line, and I've crossed it, and I've backed up, and I've crossed it, and I've backed up. So commercial breeding versus what I call a hobbyist. So like the stuff behind me, that to me that's a hobbyist. Something that you're putting the time and effort into keeping it in a nice enclosure. You're working with the animals. you're really enjoying them versus the commercial side where you're trying to kind of pump out as many babies as you can to make that money.
Yeah.
So back in, I think it was 2010, man, I had way too many snakes. I produced like 800 babies that year, and it was between ball pythons, boas, berms, and reticles. I was feeding like 200 pounds of pigs every 2 weeks, and that was just for the big snakes. Yeah. So I'll never get back to that. I'll never be on that level again, just because it was too much. It was too much for me because I was doing it by myself. But it was also, especially these days, that's producing too many animals for the hobby.
Yeah.
Back then there wasn't as many people producing the retics and the berms, so it was easier to sell that kind of stuff. But today, in today's market, there's so many people producing stuff. I try to only have about 5 to 10 clutches a year, and that's with the dwarfs and super dwarfs. So they have a lot smaller clutch. Like my biggest clutch of retics was 60 eggs, and every one of them made it. So that's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of snakes to try to find good homes for. So that's where I say when the hobby and the commercial side, you kind of gotta find a good mesh for that. And like I said, I've crossed it before, and I'm getting back to that. I've kind of slimmed down over the last year or two, trying to enjoy it more. Bring it back down to a hobby level for myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hate that word because like I have a few tanks here. Fish, yeah, if I get a lot of fish, it's a little bit easier. The snakes are easier to maintain, but the fish harder to maintain per se because that water by itself is
Oh yeah,
that's a killer. Just that by itself. But I can move them around. You know, hey, fish store here. You know,
right.
I'll sell these here. Just take these. It's okay. Just take them.
Yeah.
Whereas with that's more of a substantial creature. A snake. That's a yeah. That's a more of a, what I'm saying. That's more of a substantial creature. That's an
Yeah.
investment. That's a mental investment. That's a
Well,
financial
they
investment.
live a
That's
lot
a
longer too.
man.
I
You
mean,
know,
most of them
uh,
live 20, 30 years. So you got to really think about, you know, you're going to be taking care of that animal for a long time.
and that's the first time that number has ever hit me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
A
did. I
lot of
hadn't even
them
ran
don't
across
make
my
it that
mind, man.
long, but they can.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think my
Ooh.
oldest right now is 12 years, but yeah, they can live a good long life.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So on your when you came to the realization that you wanted to dial it back, and you're at the size that you are right now, what are you focused um on a spectrum in a sense of hobby more so, or um no, that's still an unfair question. That's an unfair question. Um
Let me see if I got where you're going with this. So these days, I only breed, and I don't try to breed all the females that I have, but I only breed for stuff I think will sell easy, and by that, like I kind of fill out my friends, all the people I know in the hobby and stuff that they're wanting to work with. But I also only produce stuff that I want, like stuff that I want to put back into my projects, or see what they look like, and stuff like that. Something to better the animals, not so much like, oh man, I got to have the next 5, 6 gene animal. Sometimes, a 1, 2 gene snake is all you need. That is
yeah.
beautiful right there. Like you don't need to put nothing else to it. So you kind of gotta manage yourself. And a lot of people think, well, I got 5 females, I got to breed all 5. You don't have to breed your snakes. They can be a pet.
Yeah,
And
yeah, 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 most definitely. Yeah, yeah, you pretty much understood where I was headed with it. Because again, like I say, I don't ever, I know myself, being in a hobby this side of as long as I have, there's things that people can misunderstand about you, and what you're doing. And I want the question to always be exactly, what's in my head as opposed to, because, sometimes the words can come out and they sound one way, but you actually mean
Oh
something
yeah,
else, you know.
I'm bad about that.
And you're like, oh, okay, I can't pull that back.
Yep, yep.
I heard it. I heard it myself, you know.
I screwed up. I screwed up.
Oh, but yeah, man. Okay, yeah, that's I like that. How, like, let's say with the ball python side, they, with all of the morphs that they have, man, it's real easy to get sucked into a vacuum. Like,
Oh yeah. And with them, like you can keep 100 ball pythons where I can keep 5 retics. Like it is so easy to get sucked into that and just buy a whole bunch to think you're going to be the next big thing,
yeah,
and that's good. I mean, as long as you're passionate about it and you're doing it right, do you? You know, as long as you're taking care of the animals, do your thing. And the ball pythons is a lot larger market, so it's not as bad like with the retics and boas. You know, it seems like the bigger snakes, there's not as many people breeding them and keeping them. You know, I'm not going to sell a retic to a 5-year-old, but
yeah,
a ball python, as long as the parents can take care of it, I'll
yeah,
sell it to a kid.
yeah. And I don't know. I guess because I've always liked big snakes, and again, it was from a younger person who liked all kinds of animals, and I said I caught some of everything too. Um, Larger is more exciting. Um, if you're gonna speak on the looks, you have a larger animal, more volume of what you consider to be good looking, as opposed to something small.
Hmm.
And I would think you would think the market would be as comparable in my head. You know what I'm saying?
So that's where like I've always kind of gravitated towards the bigger stuff. The retics, the berms. Even when I kept fish, I had a red tail catfish that died from eating an Oscar. It was 34 pounds. Like
Okay.
I've always had big stuff. I had an Aldabra tortoise. It was 100 pounds. My crocodile was like 5 foot. So I've always been into the bigger stuff, but not everybody can take care of that stuff or has the knowledge to do it safely. It's kind of like venomous stuff. Like you have to have that skill set and that focus to not get hurt. And the big snakes you can get hurt. It's always in the back of your head. Like if I take a bite that's bad, to the neck or something, it could be bad. But
Yeah.
that's where I say like retics aren't like your starter snake. Your boas, ball python, stuff like that. It's more people can keep them. So it's a lot
Gotcha.
easier to sell that kind of stuff and for people to keep that kind of stuff.
I got you. So what you say? How many? Um, offhand, how many morphs would you say that retics like even have at this point?
Oh man, it's not a whole lot. Probably so we can't import into the U.S. anymore. So there's more stuff over in Indonesia and Europe and stuff like that. But we probably only got about 30, I would say, maybe
Okay.
a little bit more. But that's where I kind of like the locality stuff because you can take that basic platinum or albino and you can add Slayer or Jampea to it, and it adds a lot of color and pattern. So that's where I was saying I'd like to do a lot of crosses because it mixes up that pattern and color, and you get basically a new morph, even though it's not. You get a different look.
Gotcha. 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 So what direction um are you thinking about? So um is the business side strictly out of your house right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts of building a standalone or finding one and actually making this a uh, huge public type of
Not
thing?
not for myself. So I used to have a friend here in town that had a pet shop, and he did really well. But Oklahoma City just doesn't have a big enough population of keepers on the stuff that I breed to really sustain something like that. Like, I've got a building that I keep my big stuff in, and then my smaller stuff I've converted my garage, but it's not really feasible for the stuff that I keep to do something like that. It'd be
You need to
nice.
move.
It'd be cool to quit my day job and and just mess with the herps all day. But
You need to move to Houston.
yeah. See places like that. Like what is it? I haven't I haven't been there in a long time. I think it's Dallas Reptarium, something like that. Man, they have
Reptarium.
amazing shop. It's done really well, and we don't have anything like that here. We got one pet shop that does herps, and it's a small mom and pop shop that's been around for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, and it's not the greatest.
Gotcha. 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 Now, your thoughts on um this Lacey Act, and right now, what you think could be? Oh man, because it has to pass first. What do you think could be the repercussions of it passing in the sense of this? Because I haven't heard people speak on it. I'm not super knowledgeable in it because I mean it affects me too on the fish side. But
Right.
let's say the guys like yourself who are breeding here, so we're not talking about importing from
Right.
overseas. You're breeding here. What kind of effect would that have when it is homebred? You know what I'm saying?
So we've actually gone through this, not on this scale, but I think it was 2012. The Lacey Act popped up, and they banned retics, berms, anacondas, and I think rock pythons. So I've already kind of been through this before, and
Okay,
it
okay.
it really hurt the big snake keepers. Um, sales kind of dropped off. Burmese just kind of went away. You can't even hardly find them anymore. They're starting to kind of come back, but I don't know what happened to them. But they just kind of disappeared. But
Gotcha.
this new one is so much scarier. That's why, like, U.S. Ark, man, I support anywhere and everywhere I can, because this is going to affect the fish people. It's going to affect the
Yeah.
bird people, the mammals, reptiles, everything. So for myself, it would put me out of business day one, because they would adopt the old Lacey Act, so I wouldn't be able to transport any of my retics across state lines. So here in Oklahoma, we got Bob Clark, we got myself, Trey Smith, Theron Lance. So there's not, I mean, there's a lot of big breeders, but there's not a lot of hobby people that keep the kind of stuff I do. So with the new Lacey Act, and I'm kind of like with you. I'm not super knowledgeable on all the aspects that's going on, and what could actually happen, but you can't export out of your state. So whatever's in the state, that's it. So pet
And
shops,
yeah,
Petco, all that's done, because they're not going to be able to bring animals in to sell.
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, we
then,
did just speak on what Oklahoma has in its own right.
mhm,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah, so it's really scary if this passes. The reptile fish, mammals, it's gonna look a lot different. The stuff that people haven't figured out how to breed, they're just gone.
Mm. You'll have to, we'll have to set up. You meet me somewhere close to the Panhandle.
So it's funny you mentioned that. Like, back when the first Lacey Act happened, there was so many jokes on, like, all right, man, we're gonna meet at the Texas border. I'm gonna, like, let the snake out of the tub, and if it happens to go across the state line, it happens. But yeah, man, it was a mess. And
Oh.
back then, the current U.S. Ark members got grandfathered in and could still ship across state lines. So that's where being a member back then, at least, was really helpful.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
membership is the key right now, because it actually shows the support we have, how many people are actually in this hobby. So it's only $40 to become a member. You have to
Okay.
resubscribe every year, which I didn't know that until 2 years ago. So, like I said, I've been supporting US Art for shit, I don't know, 14 years or ish, whatever.
Okay.
But I wasn't a member until 2 years ago. I used to go to
Gotcha.
the NERBC auctions and I would donate. I'd buy stuff. I'd give it back. I'd buy it again. It was just a way for me to have fun and still donate to somebody that's fighting for a rights. But I didn't understand how important being a member was because it shows how many people are in this hobby. Even the fish guys, we've reached. Some of us have reached out to the fish, keepers and stuff, and said, hey, if you become a U.S. Art member, they're the ones fighting for you as well. It's not just reptile people, so they're fighting for everybody. And
Gotcha.
as far as I know, no one else is.
Yeah, and saying that, we have discussed on our streams and in messengers, you discussed the Lacey Act, but U.S. Arc, when I say, is almost not ever mentioned. Like on the fish side, like,
Right.
but since I've come over
Well, a
here,
lot of fish people don't know about it. Up until this past year, it's only kind of been a reptile thing.
yeah, it's painfully obvious, at this point, man. It's painfully, and
Yeah.
last night, the gentleman that I was speaking with last night, as well as you today, it's just this light, y'all shining this extra light, for me.
Hmm.
I might have to get some balls rolling, on my end. If just by myself, hey guys, stick something on this tank back here, USR, or something, get me a shirt,
Right.
cause
Every
yeah, this
time I
this
set
is
up a show
crazy.
now, I've got a little sign out or something. I've got shirts on, and I'm always trying to get the word out there for US Art. Because, like I said, I mean, I've been doing this 19 years, and until 2 years ago, I wasn't a member. So that just shows you it's not even just the new people that don't know about it. It's us older people that have been in this for a long time. We don't really know all the aspects of it. It's kind of coming to light now, but we didn't used to. So any kind of spreading the word is good.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, back into your side, you and your side of the hobby. What is your favorite snake? Period. What is your favorite animal that you own?
Okay. My favorite animal is a purple sunfire that I hatched out. I think it was 2012. But man, it's a retic, and she's puppy dog tame. I used to bring her to shows, and I'd let little kids take pictures with her and stuff. And she's a mainland, and she's one of the last mainlands that I still have, and she's not going anywhere. I'm gonna build her a big enclosure. I'm not breeding her. She's just gonna be my pet, and that's probably my favorite, it's definitely my favorite snake for sure. My,
Gotcha.
my favorite reptile, I'd probably say my crocodile, just because I've always been into crocs ever since watching Steve Irwin when I was a little kid. Man, I always gravitated towards crocodiles for some reason.
Yeah, my when I had my dwarf Cayman, my tanks. First of all, it got painfully apparent that my tank was not big enough anymore because I couldn't keep I couldn't keep him in it, you know. And one day I decided, I said I used to ride bulls. I put my bull
Mhm.
riding glove on. So I'm gonna see what this bite is like, and I stuck my hand out there, Remember, hey, these bites like that, they bow,
Oh
It
yeah,
felt like somebody slammed my hand in a door, like literally,
yeah,
you know, which was teeth wasn't even long enough to go all the way through the leather glove,
yeah.
but the pressure was like,
They're powerful.
oh man, hey, oh, okay. Yeah, well, let's rethink this whole thing here,
Yeah, you
especially if I'm
really
gonna
got
come
to think
in.
about the enclosures on on them. When I first bought I remember when it was. I bought a Morlet's crocodile from Bob Clark when he first started importing the Morlets, probably like 2012, 2014. And I mean, it was like that big. So it was tiny. And I immediately started building a adult enclosure for it for the wintertime. Or I had a buddy of mine that's in the reptiles too. He does concrete. So he built a 12 by 8 enclosure for it in my snake house. And I actually didn't put the croc in there until 2 years ago. So it had just had big fish in it for years. But
Okay, okay.
you really got to kind of remember these animals. Dwarf came in not so much. They grow kind of slow, but a lot of this other stuff, like the big crocs, people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, you're going to breed it?" And I'm like, "No, no, man. Most people cannot care for a more or less crocodile. Like they don't get huge, but they still get 6 to 10 foot, and
Yeah, that's big.
that's
That's
a big
big. Yeah.
crocodile, man.
Because we talking about the
So,
body. We talking about the body too on that 6 to 10
oh
feet,
yeah,
you know.
man, that's a big around as me, easy. Like it's a big animal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, look at this hair croc. Yeah, that's cool then, you know. That's yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool then when it gets to six to
we
ten
used to
feet.
bring it to shows, and back then, I mean, it was a foot or two long. We taped its mouth up to be safe, but dude, it'd fall asleep in my hand. I'd sit there and just pet it, and it'd fall asleep. We had one lady like made a little leash for it, and we'd kind of like walk around the show and let people interact with it, and they thought it was really cool. But yeah, once it got about 4 foot, man, it light switched in it, and he's a different animal these days.
Okay, gotcha. He's like, I know you, but I don't know them.
Well, like so in his enclosure, mm-mm.
Not even
Like
that,
he's
huh?
eating anything that moves pretty much. Well, once you get him out and kind of calm down after a minute or two, he's pretty chill. But he's still a different kind of animal. I mean, it's something to really think about before you get a crocodile.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, man. When you and people, I guess it's not like it used to be. I can remember I was around when, your snake, you got your snake around your neck, and you're just at the beach, and and you got the alligator, you're packing it around in the mall, and I remember when people when that was like the thing, they doing all this, these dope dealers and rappers and stuff was doing all this, and then
Yeah,
after a while they're like, hey, this is not a pit bull,
yeah,
it's, I need to rethink this. I don't know what. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
whole nother it's a whole nother scenario, man. Because I'm telling you, mine. I mean, look, my snake was. I mean, my snake, my caiman was 2.5 feet. And when I say I couldn't keep it in nothing, tops coming out. I don't care what I locked. I didn't want to put my fault. I mean, I ended up, rehoming him to a herp store, but it's like I don't want to have this thing with chains wrapped around my. I want to look at him, and I got chains wrapped around
Right.
the top. I didn't want that, but that's kind of
Yeah,
what it came to. It was like, well, so what else are you gonna do?
man. I don't know. I mean, one of these days I'd like to get a Bolin's python. Me and my wife have been discussing taking out our bookshelves around our fireplace and just building a giant enclosure for one. But they've gone up in price so much that it'll probably be a few years before I get one of them.
How
But
big do they get?
honestly, I'm not sure. I think they get about 8 to 10 foot.
Okay,
They get decent size, but they're. Have you ever seen one?
no, that's why I'm
Oh
like,
man,
I'm gonna have to look it up too. You said Bowen,
Bolin's
Bowen.
pythons.
Gotcha. Bowen.
They are probably one of the best looking snakes. They're not like super colorful, but they're like black and yellow stripe, and the black is so deep and iridescent. It's just gorgeous. It's the pinnacle of most experienced snake keepers, snake list.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's
That and
cool.
I'd still like to find some dwarf crocs, but those are really hard to find.
Yeah, man, I can remember around this area, people, man, you could just go out and get your alligator. Just,
Oh yeah.
this is out
So
there.
the machinists and welders I used to work with that are, I don't know, in their 50s and 60s, they're like, oh yeah, we used to buy them at gas stations. We'd take them home, put them in the bathtub, and we let them go after a couple of weeks. I'm like,
Let
you
them
bought
go.
alligators at a gas station? Like, how is that even? How is that even
Yeah,
possible, man?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, you had little baby alligators, and like, man, that's crazy.
Like a bait shop. I told you about the little town I grew up in.
Yeah.
And we're in the country. Yeah, we were right outside of Houston, but I mean, it was technically we were in the country. Like
Hmm.
you go to a bait shop, and if it creeped around naturally in y'all's area, you might could get you one. Hey, shot. Hey, I got a so and so back there in the back. If you want to
Right?
go, you want to go check it out. What? For real? How much is it?
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Oh man, for real. Now, where do you see from when you first got into the hobby, in your mind and your heart, where is it going at this point? Up trajectory, is it uh
Uh, I kind of think today it's going up. So back when I got into it, we didn't have social media and all that stuff. We had to learn from meeting people, going to herp club meetings, reptile shows, and then we had forums. But like keeping wise, you had really old, outdated books, and then just what people talk to you about. Like the first snake rack I ever built, I posted pictures a couple times. It is just deplorable. It's very sad. I had pegboard with 2x4s on the sides, and it it was a joke. But nowadays, with the social media and stuff, and people kind of doing like the YouTube videos and stuff like that, we can build stuff like this, and you don't have to go through all the trial and errors that my generation did.
yep,
And it seems like more people are getting into, I guess, kind of the display animals and bigger enclosures, not just what they need to survive. And that's kind of what I'm starting to do is slimming down on the quantity that I keep and start keeping better. Bigger enclosures. I started putting hides with my retics with before I never did. So I think we're kind of evolving, and it's for a good thing. I think.
yep, yep, yep. I got you. Uh, Existing as opposed to thriving. The new,
Right.
yeah, because yeah, we didn't
Exactly.
hear we didn't hear that. At
Well,
first
we
it was
always
just
used to
like,
say they wouldn't breed if they weren't, happy. They eat, they breed, they're happy.
yeah,
And we're like, well, but could we keep them better?
yeah, yeah,
You should always strive to have a better setup and take care of them better. So I think we're kind of getting to that point. There's more people um showing the right way to do it.
gotcha, gotcha. Guilty snack pleasure.
Snack pleasure? Ooh, hey, anything fruity, chewy gummies. Yeah, I'm all about it.
It be in my teeth, man.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does. It definitely does. But that's my go-to. I'm not a big chocolate guy.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
tear up an apple before I'll eat a candy bar most days.
I hear you. Yeah, you can give me with some brownie type cookies. So oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You knock me over with a feather, as they say. You want to distract me? Hey, here I got this
That's my
cheesecake.
wife with chocolate, man. She loves she's gluten intolerant, so she got to eat the dark chocolate without the milk. But
Oh, okay,
she's
okay.
all about it.
Gotcha,
That's
gotcha.
her snack of choice, I guess, or whatever.
Hey, man, I love me a good snack. Just say you right.
Yep.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So with the bioactives, have
Mhm.
you started promoting them to people in any way, shape, or form? Because when I say uh,
There you go. Honestly, no, I haven't. I posted a couple, how to on how to do the cork background. We learned from a friend of ours, Andy Hain. He sets up at a lot of the herp shows and stuff like that. But they're super easy to make. They're not. I would say they're not real expensive. The cans of foam are like $15, but a can of foam will go a long way if you just get some cork. But it's not a bad idea to kind of promote that a little bit more.
yeah,
They're eye pleasing, and it gives the animals more enrichment, and they're a lot easier to take care of, especially if it's a smaller animal. You don't
And the
have to clean the
key,
cage nearly as much.
oh man, the key to that for me was when I made that one for my frog. That's the first one I made. So that means I was really looking at my videos. I was really, boom, bow, that's going. Got my frog in it. Then I just went sideways. I went crazy. I got 20-gallon long tanks that I had, and I moved fish around, and I started turning these 20-gallon longs into terrariums, and then I started having gnats everywhere, and the gnats was taking over, and so
We just put a pitcher plant in this tank over here because there's little gnats all in it.
oh,
None of the other tanks have it, so I don't know what's going on. But
I
yeah,
backed up. What they ended up happening, when you talk about your little invertebrates, your roly polies,
yeah, the
your and your
isopods.
yeah, your isopods and your springtails and whatnot.
Hmm.
That tank, I done everything in the right, you know. So never a gnat, never a smell. I mean, I don't even have a water dish in there. I spray it
Yeah.
every morning. I spray it because the frog, so he absorbs.
Hmm.
I keep my humidity right in it. That thing now, all I do is just come and open and dump some crickets, close it.
Yeah.
You know, every now and then I take some plants out.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Trim them up.
Man, when I say make it so easy, people say, man, I have my animal on paper or I have them on this and the smell, and I'm like,
Yeah.
bioactive, man. If you got your cleanup crew and they fully rooted in, you don't have to worry about none of that.
Yep.
They coming through and they eating up everything.
Yeah. I got about a 4 foot snake in the top one up here, and I still got to clean out the poop and urates. But all the ones with the little turtles and uh, we got a tree boa and going python. I don't even mess with them. They just they do their own thing. The bugs clean up pretty much everything. I'm sure I'll have to spot clean eventually or change out some
Yeah,
soil and stuff. But man, for the smaller species, it's the way to go.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely, most definitely. So what do you next acquisition? You got it in your eye on anything that you haven't had other than the what'd you say, bowling's boa?
The Bolins, like I said, it's going to be impossible for me to find pretty much. But dwarf crocodiles are top on my list.
Okay,
I mean, there's a couple like boas I want to pick up to add some genetics, but definitely the dwarf crocs.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna
Not to
have to
be
look up.
confused with dwarf caiman.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm gonna have to look that up too. Dwarf crocs, because I had never known other than the dwarf caimans on the dwarf side. That is,
Hmm.
I never really
Most
paid
people
attention.
don't know about it. I mean, they're a small species. They're from West Africa. They don't really get very big, like 4 or 5 foot, and they've still got the structure is a little bit different on the head, and there's just something about them. I really like them. So, not very many people keep them. I think I only know of like one person in the U.S. that breeds them, and I'm pretty sure they're endangered in Africa. So they're kind of hard to get, but
Gotcha.
one day, if I'm
Now,
lucky.
and I just thought of this, and I wanted to ask you this from when we first spoke. Your Gila monster.
Hmm.
Touch on your healers a little bit, because I mean, I that's one of those intriguing animals, and it's been that way for my whole life. Like I love the way the head's shaped and the
Hmm.
and that tongue. That's a whole nother. It's like it's only for the healers and the beaded lizards. I mean, man, just touch on them a little bit as far as the
So I've
um.
I've kept both Gilas and Beateds. I think I like the Gilas a little bit better. They're a little smaller, not quite as feisty, but they're both fun to keep. And like you said, I mean the texture of the skin. Pretty much whenever I had people come over to the house when I have them, I'd get some gloves out and I'd hold them and I'd let people touch them because the texture is just so different from most other reptiles, and people always enjoy it. They're fun to keep. They're super easy to keep, and they're not too toxic on the venom. Uh, it's the only kind of venomous stuff I'll ever have. But yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, 'cause when you first
And I
mentioned,
keep mine on bioactive too, so that
okay,
helps.
okay, okay. Yeah, when you first mentioned, I said, man, I'm gonna have to ask him about that. I'm gonna have to ask him about that because I really like him. No, we'll never have one, but I really, I really like him.
It's one of those venomous animals that, as long as you're not doing something dumb, you're safe. So that's where I say, like, venomous snakes I'll never own. I'm not cautious enough. I get bit so much with the snakes I keep now. But the Heelys and beetles, you can get gloves to where they can't bite through, and most of them are pretty chill to where they're not even going to try it. I've had a couple beetles that would, but they're not super quick. I mean, they can kind of whip back and forth a little bit, but they kind of got to chew on you to envenomate you too. So it's definitely a safer venomous animal.
And I can't imagine a 3 foot beat it. That's
Oh yeah, man. Back when my buddy used to keep venomous here, we had, man, he had a big male that was, I mean, it was every bit of 3 foot, just huge.
what would he have to weigh though? What is?
Uh, it probably about 10 pounds, maybe.
Oh, that's it. So they
Yeah.
seem like they would be girthy,
Oh
at that
no,
level.
like his. I mean, it might have been like that big around, but
Okay.
that's a little body, even though it's that big. You got the a decent sized tail, so yeah, they're not real heavy
Gotcha.
lizards.
Yeah, because I see the, let's say, 1 foot or foot and a half when I'm looking at the body,
Hmm.
and I'm imagining, you're multiplying the whole creature with the length,
Yeah,
and I'm like, man, 3 feet, that would be huge.
yeah. Well,
But
that's
okay,
that's where the Gilas are. Like I said, I like them a little bit better because they're quite a bit smaller than the Medians, and they
gotcha.
seem to have a little bit better colors, I think.
Okay, okay. So I'm at the 51-minute mark, and I forgot to mention earlier that when I'm doing a recording, StreamYard don't want me to go any tick over 1 hour, or they won't let me upload it. They want some more money from me, and I'm thinking about whether I want them to have that. So if there's anything that you want to say, to put out there, to promote.
Man, so the only thing I ever really promote, I don't, promote myself too much, but U.S. Art, man, please support. If you can't donate, become a member. I've seen, I got a buddy Gary that he actually, instead of donating money, he donated memberships. So he would have people hit him up that didn't have a membership and couldn't afford one, and he would buy their membership for them. So anything and everything you can do to try to save us or save our hobby, save our passion. I don't know what I would have done growing up if I couldn't go to the pet shops and learn about stuff, and you know who knows what I would have got into and the trouble I would have been in.
Yeah.
So I really want to save this hobby for the future generations. So if anybody takes anything away from this whole thing is you know teach the new generation, be kind, and please support U.S. art.
Most definitely, man. And I want to say, I appreciate you coming on here. Um,
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man.
I probably, because I think I want to go full circle. My schedule. I used to work in food service in the facility that I work in. I had a dedicated schedule where I was off every weekend, so I went live every weekend. Whereas now, it 4 weeks, 4 weeks live, 4 weeks not. It causes a little old problem for me, and I like
Yeah,
to really um we leave a lot of meat on the bone like this. You know what I'm saying? Leave a lot of meat on the bone, and I may want you, if you'll accept, I might have you come back on
oh,
when
for
I'm
sure, man.
actually when I can actually go live. Because then again, right there too, chat interaction.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love
Chat
answering
interaction is so
questions, and so
it's so
I'd
important,
definitely be
man.
on again.
Because I know sometimes it's hard. Like when I schedule this to release, the person who was actually on might not be able to be in the chat.
Right.
And so because I mean, yeah, you can answer some questions like that, But I mean, you may not be able to be there, and it's kind of hard. I won't be able to answer any of the questions. I'm sitting there, hey, y'all, thank you for coming. Yeah, I know. No, no, I can't answer that. No, I don't know the answer to that. Hold on, let me see.
I'll try my best. You hit me up. I'll try my best to be on there so that I can answer questions for people.
All right, because it's gonna be released. It's gonna be I'll give you the date, but it's gonna be 6 p.m. on a Saturday.
Okay.
Just give you kind of a window frame. But yeah, so thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thanks
you,
for
man.
having me, man.
Appreciate you. Most definitely. Hey y'all. Thank y'all for looking at this here recording. Yes, I know. I wish it was live also. But I appreciate you for checking it out. And I know you really enjoyed what you heard up to this point. So just look forward to more content like this. I found a whole lot of people, man, that's wild about herps, as my title says. I found a lot of them, and I want to bring as many people to you guys as possible. You see a tick across the bottom of the screen down there. I have a podcast for those who, you have those jobs that keep you out and about. And if you want to listen to any of these videos, I moved the audio over to my podcasts. I got my email down there. If you may actually want to be on a video, so y'all be good to people. Tell somebody you love them because there's some people out there that need to hear it, especially these days and times. And take care of those animals. Y'all be good. And we out. Peace.